We at Time Shifters hope that you enjoyed this rare and infamous moment that combines a first-rate disaster with genuine historical significance. But now it's time to take a deep breath as we prepare to temporarily reset you. Get your cars to Mars.
Everyone, this is Christopher and Tom, and this is the Time Shifters Podcast. In this show, we discuss and review film and television, primarily in the sci-fi, fantasy, and horror genres. Just to remind everybody, if you want to comment on anything you hear us say today, please drop an email to timeshifterspodcast@gmail.com or follow the link in the show notes to find all our social media accounts. You can also just go to timeshifterspodcast.com to find all those links as well. Now, let's get Tom in on the fun. Tom, how have you been?
Oh, not too bad. It's been a week or two.
It absolutely has been a couple weeks. Hasn't this month been quite the year? Yeah.
It's more like what hasn't happened in the past 5 minutes.
Yeah, no kidding. We are nearing the end of our Babylon 5 rewatch.
Are you now?
or first time watch, because we will finally reach season 5.
Okay.
I am not remembering anything, so I'm wondering if I've actually seen any of this season. May have been for the better. It's not a very good season so far.
Yeah, I don't know if I remember it.
There's a few highlights here and there, but overall, it's kind of, this definitely feels like we really didn't know what to do with this.
Which is a shame, since Babylon 5 was supposed to have a plan.
Well, and that's the problem, is they crammed everything into the 4th season because that was going to be the last.
Right.
Babylon 5 was on WB. WB was going, no, we're I don't remember if the actual channel itself was shutting down or if they were just saying, no, we're done with Babylon 5. We're not going to produce anymore. And so JMS and everybody behind the show crammed everything into that 4th season.
Yeah.
And then when TNT came along and said, we'll give you another season, everyone kind of and looked at each other and went, okay. That really hurt season 4 too, because there's so much that goes on in that season, and it's all done like, and here's this major plot that gets solved in 2 episodes. Like, wow, really? We have a Minbari civil war that begins and ends within 3 episodes. I'm like, what?
Right. Yeah, I seem to recall that being rushed. It's been a while, and I swear I can't remember anything of season 5, so this...
Yeah.
And
there's a lot... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and this is where the chaos of its switch over, it's not like a streaming service that picks up somebody else's content and then chooses to carry it forward, like when The Expanse moved from Sci-Fi over to Prime, you at least knew you could always watch it. The getting it to go from the WB to TNT, they jockeyed the schedule so much, and it predates having better technology to record. You had your VCR, and by God, it better have been on the right channel, or nobody flipped the AB switch on the back of the cable, or any other number of nonsense that we all had to deal with in the 90s.
Who was playing the Nintendo and didn't switch the box back?
Yeah, exactly, that kind of stuff. So it was horrible to try to watch some of that stuff back then, because if you didn't catch it live, there's not a chance. You might have missed it even in the recording.
There was a lot in season 4, especially in the latter half of that season, I didn't remember either. So I think it was a matter of... I think life started changing about then. I think the WB was I think it was like, was that a cable channel or is that just a syndicated? You were lucky if you're...
The WB was syndication and then converted to CW, which is probably about that time.
Okay. Well, I just think that that's when life and things started getting away. Because I remember a lot of these shows, the only reason or only way I watched them was I'd be coming over to your house and you'd have recorded a week's worth of stuff.
Right. Because I even remember our time at the print company. We were making boxes for the VHS tapes.
Yeah. And I just wonder if that was about the time that things started, just life started getting busy and schedules started changing. And that's when we weren't doing those late night binges on the weekday stuff and just stopped seeing a lot of these things.
Well, yeah, you did start kind of dating your future wife somewhere in all of that too.
It's very that might have taken up a little bit of my time.
Little bit.
So yeah, that might explain where when you get into the season 4, is it became all new to me, and yeah, season 5 is all definitely, with a few exceptions, a clean slate. Funnily enough, most of season 4 I didn't remember except for the final episode. Somehow I caught that.
That's too funny.
Trying to think if I've been up to much else besides that. I've started kind of just randomly going through some old Mystery Science Theaters.
Always fun.
Started going back to like season 2 and 3, then jumping ahead and I'll watch something from like 6 or 7.
Got to mix it up with Mike and Joel.
Yeah, exactly. And it does take a little bit for me to want to go back to like season 1. Some of those are pretty rough.
Yeah.
And there's a lot in the latter seasons where, after Frank left.
Yeah.
And then after Trace left, I'm a little more hesitant to jump into some of those.
I don't have a problem with all of those, but they start thinning out. It's the sci-fi era. It starts to thin out a little bit. Focus, I don't know. They had been doing it a long time.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I almost get the feeling that they were all ready to put it to bed, and it was probably Jim Mallon that was like, no, we got to keep going.
Right.
Like, all right, we'll do another year. We'll do a film.
I think it's funny, though, that by the time Mystery Science Theater on Sci-Fi wrapped up, they left the show behind, and then they all go and make their own little riff companies.
Yeah.
Trace and Frank go off to do their thing. Joel and his crew go off to do their thing, and Mike and Kevin and what's his name? I want to say Jim Corbett.
Yeah, Corbett's definitely right.
Yeah, I know, but they all go off to do riff tracks. So
yeah. Yeah, well, they realized where their bread was buttered best.
Well, I think they like doing it. They're very good at it. It's just...
Oh, absolutely.
It was just, let's leave the riffing show to go do a riffing show.
Right. We'll still maintain that I think some of the shorts are the best thing about any Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode.
Oh, yeah, no, I actually love it on, like, the Pluto channel when they'll just have a short episodes.
No,
like they'll actually just break out shorts and just show those.
Yeah. So what have you been up to?
I have this tendency. We've discussed this before, where if there's a show that I really like, I'll drag out watching the last little bit of it, knowing either it's going away forever or at least long enough to be painful. So. But I finally bit off the last bit of season 2 of Severance. I know I've talked this show up before. I'm still stunned to this day that it's a Ben Stiller thing. But oh my God, is that show just so awesome? And the the season finale, which I will not ruin for anyone, it's just completely unmoored from reality, which is kind of part of the point. I really love that this season, if anyone doesn't know the premise, the idea is that you can volunteer to work for this company and have your work personality be severed from your out of work personality, and they refer to them as the innie and the outie. But this season really sunk its teeth into the notion of what are you doing when you separate your conscience to a point where it only exists in one spot. It's essentially you've made another life.
Mm-hmm.
Your consciousness in this environment is all it knows. It is its own entity. You don't even get to know it, really. So therefore, in this environment, they make their own relationships. They have their own life. They do their own thing. So as you start to rocket toward the notion that, okay, maybe this isn't a good idea, but the concept of possibly ending that has to result in ending a life that you created. And
right. They're
really analyzing that. And the season finale, I even saw Adam Scott, who plays the lead character. He has a wonderful little interview where he keeps talking about the actor that he'll never work with ever again because it was just so irritating. He's talking about himself. Because there is this very fascinating bit of dialogue where they take his character to a place where he can switch being the innie and outie by simply walking out of a single door.
Okay.
And it's not controlled by the larger company. So he's got a video camera and he's trying to have a conversation with himself. And the way they shoot that and the way that conversation goes and all that is so surreal, but it's so good. It's literally you having an argument with yourself out loud where you don't actually know what the response is going to be.
Interesting.
Yeah, and when part of the deal is that to formulate this plan that's been the culmination of the entire season, having that conversation where essentially one has to ask the other to quit living.
Mm-hmm.
Tough conversation to have, particularly with oneself. So
yeah, interesting. I would probably really like this thing. I need to check it out.
You really, really do, and it is really, really available to you. So, at any rate, you really should. It's thought provoking. It's well acted. It's surreal as hell, and like the concept of in the innie location, the place they all work, is almost this really twisted dream that just never ends. So, if anybody's never seen this show before, what the hell are you doing wrong with your life?
Yeah. I'm probably the only one.
I'm sure there's a couple others, but seriously, you should go watch this. And on a much lighter bit of fare, I have been making my way back through the past several seasons of the Harley Quinn series on Max, which is just, first off, it's a lot of fun. It just is fun. It's the DC characters done in a way that, one, because it's done on Max, it's done very adult. All of the usual stuff is completely off the rails, including the death of characters, main characters, big time name kind of characters. So, as the show goes, it's entirely all comedy. It's all intended to be a bunch of Easter eggs to those that know the DC world. and then just having fun with the concept of the characters. But I caught something this time around, which wasn't obvious the first time I went through. When you start the series, you're basically coming out of the days of Batman the Animated Series, where Harley and Joker are the couple. She is still in the original outfit and all of that. But that is obviously not going well for her. She's catching on, finally, to the idea that this is not a healthy relationship. And then works to end that and ends up getting her own crew. She ends up hanging out with her friend Ivy, Poison Ivy, a lot more. And the first 2 seasons are just her getting her shit together and building this crew and doing what she wants to do and all that and developing this relationship. But by the time you get to the end of the second season and it's now obvious that Harley and Ivy are becoming a couple, not just friends, when they actually embrace the notion that they're in a lesbian relationship, that season ends with the end. Like they didn't, it looked like they didn't expect to come back. So by the time you move into the third season, it makes this weird transition where we're like, yep, we're back. they weren't sure that was gonna fly, and then they take it completely off the rails going forward, and it's so much fun. Joker gets a family.
Right. Okay.
He kind of, sort of. He's not good, but he's not all bad either. And the fact that Alan Tudyk does both his voice and Clayface's voice, and all the stuff that's with that. There's even a completely unhinged Valentine's Day episode where it's just everything about it is wrong. It's just weird and wrong, but it's so much fun, and you just kind of laugh your ass off. Hey, Bane gets increased to the size of a building and ends up having sex with buildings.
Okay.
Yeah. It's that kind of completely deranged.
Understood. Oh, now you're making me sound sorry I lost Max.
Yeah, you kind of. Yeah.
Bad timing. Oh, well.
Yeah. If you find a way, I'd recommend it. Just if you enjoyed the animated series, but you want a lot more adult slant on the whole thing, this is a great way to go.
What more of an edge? Excellent.
Yep.
All right. Fair enough. If you don't have anything else, I something happened in my world just recently. At the time that everyone hears this, it will have been a couple weeks ago, but we lost, to me, one of the greats in podcasting. A good friend of mine, Dave Minkus, passed away unexpectedly. And it kind of took myself and many of my friends just, well, by surprise would be an understatement. Mm-hmm. At the time that we're recording this, we're all still trying to process this. Dave Minkus was one of the hosts of a podcast called Screen Geeks. And this was one of the first shows that I ever subscribed to. And his show and meeting him at the Denver Starfest back in 2006, 2007. And then every time I went to Starfest from 2006, 2007 to, I'm looking at my passes, 2014, and would see him there every year. And from the very first moment that I met him, I was his friend and he was mine. He was that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Always super supportive. You know, he was super supportive in all our efforts to kick when we decided to do a podcast. And honestly, if it weren't for Screen Geeks, I mean, that is a big inspiration for me to even try my hand at podcasting. And if not for him and that show, there most likely would not be Time Shifters. And if there is not Time Shifters, there would definitely not be Orphan Entertainment. And I would not have a incredible amount of friends and acquaintances that I've met through podcasting that I have today. None of that would have happened. And I just feel like so much of that is, I have to lay it at the feet of Dave and just a handful of others. And it was a crushing blow to lose him so quickly. It was one of these things where, while I hadn't spoken to him for years, we just kind of followed and kept up with each other on Facebook, it still felt like I lost one of my best friends. Yeah. And it's a real damn shame. He was just a fantastic person, and it's been great reading everyone else's memories of the man, and they're all very similar to mine. He was just always smiling, always happy to see you, happy to talk with you, happy to help you. If you needed the shirt off his back, he would absolutely give it to you. Absolutely, Dave Minkus will be sorely, sorely missed in not just the podcast and kind of nerd and geek community, but just in life in general. Many of the old episodes of his Screen Geeks podcast is still available at screengeeks.com. And if you're curious, you can go back to episode 84, and I guest on the show at one point where we talked about Joe Dante's Matinee, which is a terrific film, and I had a blast sitting in on the show at that time. So I think with that, we will take a break. I am going to play the Screen Geeks promo, even though there will never be a new Screen Geeks episode. I'm going to play the promo that they threw together way back in 2008. And I just, thanks everyone for bearing with me while I shared this and while I share this promo. And goodbye, Dave. Thank you for everything. Absolutely am going to miss the hell out of you.
Keeping the world safe from the Uwe Bulls, Paul Whatscript Andersons, and Aaron Seltzer and Jason Freebergs of the world.
We don't discriminate different races, different sexes, or different species. Orcs, Vulcans, Jawas, Daleks, Hobbits, or Redcoats. You're all good with us.
We stand up for The Fountain, Midnight Meat Train, A Scanner Darkly, and other cinematic classics that have been ignored, passed by, and tossed aside by mainstream audiences.
We support cinematic leaders you can get behind, like Darren Aronofsky, Kevin Smith, Edgar Wright, Spike Lee, Peter Jackson, David Fincher, the Coen brothers, Charlie Kaufman, and Richard Kelly.
In the battle between aliens versus predators, we sided with the audience. And in the conflict between Autobots and Decepticons, we got behind Sam Witwicky.
We've got the facts, solid opinions, and we'll debate the issues, but we remain within our Geek Peace Treaty.
From Dagobah to the Shire, Planet Vulcan, or the Bridge of the Firefly, we'll be there.
No matter where you go, there we are, Screen Geeks.
You will never doubt our commitment to Spark Emotion. We're Screen Geeks.
Never give up, never surrender. Screen Geeks.
We are McLovin, Screen Geeks. We're Screen Geeks, and we approve this message.
All right, we are back today. I didn't mention it earlier, but today we are going to be discussing a film from 1986 called Star Crystal.
We know it's everybody's favorite.
I can't even say. I was going to say the award-winning it sarcastically, but I can't.
Nah.
It wouldn't even come out. This thing stars C. Justin Campbell, Faye Bolt, John W. Smith, Taylor Kingsley, and Marsha Lynn, all names that I've never heard of before.
Or ever again.
This horror science fiction film barely fits in our theme. It does begin on Mars, where a large stone is uncovered by a pair of astronauts and taken to their ship, where it cracks open to reveal a large crystal and also releases some sort of goo that begins to develop into an alien creature. The ship is later found adrift with its crew dead from suffocation and taken to a space station. A small repair crew is on board the shuttle and manage to fly it away when a faulty reactor causes the station to explode. The crew have to figure out a way to make the long journey to Earth, which is complicated when the alien, which has inexplicably managed to avoid detection, begins to take over the ship and start killing the crew one by one. And according to the end credits, this movie was filmed entirely in space.
Clearly, I didn't read the credits.
Maybe you're turned off by the song sung by the voice actress that voiced Daphne in the original Scooby-Doo.
Oh, really? Is that who that was?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I found this title just on a list of films that supposedly took place on Mars, not realizing how little Mars played into this film. So my apologies for kind of breaking the theme.
Well, it was all in good hope, at least.
It was. I have so many questions about this film.
So do I.
And this plot. The easiest and most obvious of which I kind of hinted at in my synopsis. How the hell is it that no one notices this glowing crystal and puddle of goo developing into an alien? The ship is found drifting in space. It's brought to a space station. They put on a crew to start doing repairs. No one looked. They cleaned the bodies out. No one looked around.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, the crew, before they all suffocated, there was a group of them trying to analyze this rock before it split open. No one saw the... You would have at least, even if the goo went away and all that, by the crew suffocated, no one noticed the shiny lit up throbbing crystals sitting on the panel that had nothing to do with the ship.
I was a little confused exactly where this crystal existed in the world.
Right.
Because it would be seen glowing, and then there'd be like a mass of something, and then tentacles would shoot out, and they're like, is that in this room? Or wait, that's attack. Wait, who's being attacked? Where and why have they not noticed this thing?
That was the frustrating part from the horror aspect. Is this thing the alien, the goo that formed into an alien, clearly had tentacles, but you never saw the tentacles and the alien in the same shot.
No, yeah, which only added to the whole. Where is it exactly?
Right. Not to mention, you always saw one of my favorite things, and we'll get into the ship itself at some point. But I love that they could track things on the ship. They had the layout of the ship, and it's clearly somebody with a pen light on the other side of the film moving it around to make the effect, which I can be endeared by. I made for a laugh, but like. I love that while we can't tell who is who, we do know that the alien is white and everybody else is red. Mm-hmm. And so you can see them moving around in the various corridors, but I'm like, you know where the alien is. Why do you keep going to it?
Right.
Especially if you know it kills people.
Well, and the thing becomes... when not on screen, is apparently incredibly mobile.
Yes, no, that's what, and I think that's what I was really trying to get at with the pen light thing. It moves around pretty damn good, except when you see it.
Right. Yeah, when you see it, it seems to be kind of slow, lumbering, doesn't do much.
Not kind of clear how it does anything, and by the time we get to the full-grown one, the tentacles kind of don't play a role anymore.
Yeah, they completely disappear.
Yeah. So apparently, while it's adolescent, it's fairly tentacle-y.
In my notes here, I said that someone didn't see Alien in the theater in 1979, but did see it on VHS and decided they wanted to go at that story.
Kinda, yeah.
I also mentioned in my notes here that this film weirdly goes from a generic alien to a very special episode of Alf.
Well, only if Alf is covered in slime and is gooey. Yeah, since you're jumping to that part already, that's the part that surprised me with this film. Kind of pleasantly, actually. I could do without the biblical passage thing that they brought up on a computer. It turns out after our little amoeba develops and evolves over the period of days or weeks while it's on board this ship, we do get to find out that the star crystal is a computer of a kind, and the alien bug thing can communicate with it, and thereby also with the ship. So using it as an interface between the two. And I was having flashbacks. Granted, I know that Fifth Element came later, but I was having that moment where Lilu is busy going through the history of the world on her computer. And that's kind of the vibe I was getting with this, is now the alien is trying to do some sort of research on humanity. And I was getting real worried there for a second when it decided, of all the things that it could possibly look into about humanity and our history, it decided to lean into the Bible real hard right away.
Yeah.
And then the passages that it chose, like, they were fairly benign, nothing major. But that's the last of that part. And then we get the I'm prepared to be warm and cuddly alien.
Right. Yeah, you get the weird, like, sitcom montage of everyone kind of helping out around in each other and getting each other's way. And, oh you alien.
Yeah, and even an alien who we get a name. His name is Gar. Mm-hmm. By the time we learn the alien's name and that we're seeing them work mutually together, keep in mind, it's a horror movie up until the minute where it's a family comedy.
Yep.
And when it goes into family comedy, even this alien that literally evolved in the span of a couple of days to weeks is now calling the remaining guy on the ship a jerk.
Yeah.
Using that word.
Yeah, it's yeah, it does turn into like a weird, I don't know, Alf, Perfect Strangers, Three's Company. I don't know. It's
Small
a
Wonders.
little bit of everything.
Yeah. No, it does. And while it did go goofy, and it was super goofy by the time it went to that. The transition part, the part where they're... Granted, this movie wasn't great at building any kind of sense of dread or tension or suspense of any kind.
It tried. Oh, it tried.
It tried. But by the time we get to the confrontation where our remaining hero and heroine are in the engine room with Gar, and it could be a bloody battle to the death here to see who prevails. And the fact that it actually turned into a conversation, where Gar actually owns, I was still developing, all of your prior crewmates and all that were trying to attack me. So I was acting in self-defense, but now that I am aware of who you are, what you are, and I can communicate with you, first off, gotta say, not a fan. He didn't put it in quite those words, but basically, you guys like to kill anything you don't understand. So try to be in my shoes for a sec. I'm the lump of slime moving around here that you all want to shoot. But by the time they do that, they start actually having a dialogue where it actually starts to become, how do you trust something you've never experienced before? And I thought, wow, this turd of a movie is actually making a really cool point right now. And the fact that it turns into a family sitcom is ridiculous, but the notion that they got past what was causing them to confront each other and learn to work together. As weird and awful as this thing is, it was hard not to kind of go, that was kind of cool.
It takes so long building up
Yeah.
with the horror aspects that when it hits that point, you can't help but sit there and go, cop out.
Kind of, but it was good to see growth, like actual real growth.
No, oh, absolutely. It was, I find it almost hard to say this.
Yeah.
This was a really cheap episode of TOS Trek.
Yeah. But because we're bringing in that kind of thing, why did they have to crawl between the rooms?
You know,
Who the hell designed the ship? I'm sorry, who designed the ship?
it's not practical by any stretch of the imagination, no.
All
but I
the doors were half height.
I kind of liked it. I felt like it was a little utilitarian. It was it reminded me of, if you ever visited like an Air Force museum, you see like an old World War II bomber.
Yeah.
For the crew to get back to, like, say, the tail gun, they would have to crawl through this small passageway, through a tube, effectively, through the bomb bay to get from the flight, the front of the plane, to the tail gun. And that's kind of what this reminded me of.
I would grant you that, except we saw the exteriors of the ship too. It's the same height from front to back. The tube tunnels were a choice.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I would give you that. I would totally give you that if the ship didn't have gravity.
Fair.
If it was like current space technology, the notion that you would just float your way through the passage to the next compartment that you need to be in, I'm with you. But that was not this scenario. And even if you were trying to do this tubes as some point of tension, some thing, they didn't use it in that way. The fact that they crawled didn't add or anything to the tension.
No, I mean, they had a couple characters crawling through with the alien right behind them. They were trying to imply that the alien was right behind them.
The little white light was on the screen there.
Yeah, exactly. But that could have just as easily been them running down a hallway. It didn't have to be crawling. These tubes, these passages weren't small enough to feel claustrophobic.
No.
But they weren't big enough to stand in.
Nope.
So, yeah, it falls in this weird nether region between the two.
Yeah, it was just... It was a choice that I can't wrap my head around.
There's a lot of choices in this film I have a hard time wrapping my head around. The space station.
Yeah.
At the beginning, we spend a good, 15, 20 minutes? Well, maybe it wasn't that long. It felt like it, though.
Yeah.
We've at least 10, 15 minutes meeting these people. Oh, General, coming on board, and I'm going into this meeting, and we're kind of discussing this thing. This guy with the cigarette.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and they all just get blown up. What? It has no bearing on the story at all.
No, because, you meet... I remember meeting Colonel 70s porn star in the one hallway where the chick's eyeballing him up and down, and seriously, I had a 70s porn feel at that very moment, and they don't factor into anything.
No, absolutely not. My guess is that these were the family and friends that helped pay for the movie to be made, and they were given a role, and this is the only place they could fit them in.
Perhaps. And how much did you have to love the fact that there's a dude chain smoking in a dark conference room on a space station? Really? Can we at least... Not to mention, this is supposed to be 2036?
Sometime in the 2030s. I've seen a couple different people say 35, 36, 32.
Yeah, so
whatever.
This is essentially only 50 years from the year that this thing is released. I'm like, you really think? First off, it didn't look that advanced, but it was obviously more. But somehow in 50 years, we managed to build a space station the size of a moon. Because seeing the spacecraft that we spend most of the movie on, it is infinitesimal compared to the size of this place. But we've built that. We've built all these other ships, these all different kinds of ships. In 50 years, we've done all this. And we're comfortable enough to the point where, we can chain smoke in our oxygen-deprived atmosphere.
Really good scrubbers.
Yeah, apparently so. But
absolutely.
I thought the movie definitely bit off more than it could chew.
Oh, well, and hasn't that been the case of so many of these low-budget films
True.
that you and I have watched?
Yes.
But this one, I didn't actually see. Is there a budget listed anywhere? No, I don't see a budget anywhere.
Numbers don't go that low.
I will admit that the some of the makeup effects, certainly of the when the alien attacks the crew and they sort of get gooed and melted and whatever, some of that is actually kind of impressive. And I feel like whatever the budget was, that's pretty much where it went. And even the look of the alien when it is finally done, the alien puppet is not bad.
No.
Though I have to admit, the face of the thing makes it look like the most put out creature in all of sci-fi.
He looks so sad all the time.
Oh my god, it was just this poor.
It was clear they were proud of the model that they made for it and the amount of animatronics and such that they did get going.
The eyes?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The problem is they were so proud of that, they featured it endlessly. We constantly had this repetitive shot of the eye moving around in the socket
and blinking
and the mouth moving and the goo dropping off of that. And I wanted from the montage at the end at least somebody walking across the bridge and sliding out from under. I wanted the banana peel moment in Gar's tracks, because everywhere he goes, he's just oozing.
Oh, speaking of the slime, I want to bring this up only because when I was watching this film, I audibly asked, "Who does that?" When one of the characters, one of the disposable ones, she goes to the engine room to look for the engineer who is no longer responding because, unbeknownst to them, she's been killed. And she goes and she finds some of the slime on the floor, and she puts her entire hand in it. I'm like, oh, what's this? I'm like, who does that?
Not many of the things that people did in this movie made any sense whatsoever.
Oh, speaking engine room, I've got to talk about this because I thought it was so cool. It was one of those moments where you just perk up and point. The ship engines were a very recognizable prop.
Yes.
They were the quote-unquote blinking tubes without function, designed by prop maker John Zabrucki for the company he co-founded Modern Props. This is often referred to as the most important device in the universe due to its appearance in over 100 film and TV shows.
I know. I recall seeing it in Next Generation episodes.
Oh, yes. It was originally built for the Incredible Hulk TV series, but was later seen in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, aboard the Space Lab Regula 1, and has made appearances in Airplane 2, the sequel, with a really great scene with William Shatner.
Of course.
What have you found?
All I found is that these red lights keep moving back and forth. Aside from that, this thing seems to have no other function whatsoever, sir.
Well, that's impossible. It must have some sort of function. I mean, why would the government put all that money into a thing with red lights that keep going back and forth? Doesn't make any sense. Keep working on it.
It appeared in Knight Rider several episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation, as you said, and dozens of other films and TV shows. You will know what I'm talking about if you don't already know.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I go, hey, it's that thing!
This film, as you've kind of hinted at, is so strange, and it's so cheaply done, and kind of the story is poorly told, but there are some really interesting avenues that it goes down. It just leaves you kind of going, what the hell did I just watch?
It does too, because for such an enlightened ending, more or less, everything up to that point was just so awful. Like, the characters and their behaviors toward one another were terrible.
Oh,
the misogyny was on full display in this film to a grotesque level.
It's funny that, okay, we need to figure out what we've got, make sure, and ration our supplies and everything. And then she starts just carrying around boxes of food, and everyone's like, oh, a sandwich. Oh, I think I'll have another. I'm like, wait a minute.
Weren't we rationing a second ago?
Yeah. Weren't you just talking about how it's going to take you like 18 months to get back to Earth, and this is all the food you have, and you're going to have seconds?
Well, the layout of this ship was just bizarre anyways. But yeah, like by the time it's down to the last two, and they need to go for provisions again through the tubes. Mm-hmm. And all he manages to come back with is Campbell's soup, which he lays into that. Never before have I heard a story introduced into a movie that had no place for having it and did nothing to comfort anybody who heard it.
Padding.
Yes, quite.
We need 5 more minutes. Talk about soup.
Oh my God, yes. That's basically what that boiled down to. It was just nightmarish.
Yeah. So many. It's such an odd film.
It really is. And as odd as it was, I ended up kind of liking it.
I don't know if I would go that far.
I mean, like, it's not going to become like, oh, wow, I need to watch Star Crystal again. It's not like that, but I was hating on this movie, like, nonstop. And then we get to the scene where they have an epiphany and there's actual growth. And I'm like, now I kind of can't hate it.
I would probably be okay with that if maybe that's where the film ended.
Right.
But they have to do the whole montage of everybody cooperating and getting along and turning into this weird family. And there was moments while there wasn't dialogue, you could almost imagine, did E.T. do that?
Let me tell you about my best friend.
I am going to crop that scene out and put that song over it. Oh my God. It's exactly what it is.
It did have that, but it also got me thinking philosophically. Because as much as I love that that's where that went, it also kind of ruins the film. If you think about it. Because this is supposed to be the climax. This is supposed to be when things get resolved. and you kind of usually want to do that in a movie like this as excitingly as possible. And as much as I was happy to see this, there's nothing exciting about that. and if you think about it, and this is what's flawed about being human, it is for everything to be perfect, nothing is dramatic. If we all just got along, if we just actually gave a crap about one another on the regular and tried to work together all the time, There's no drama in that.
Nope.
That's a good thing, but it's kind of sad that it's not exciting.
It might be a good thing in life, but it's not what you're looking for in your quote-unquote horror sci-fi film.
Right, but if you think about it, if we weren't like this on the whole, our entertainment wouldn't look like our entertainment looks like. So, this was a nice, abrupt change, but it didn't seem to fit with the mood of this film up to that point. And then what makes it even worse is, so you have this camaraderie, you see the evolution of purpose, of being, of togetherness. And it's all to just go, okay, we're going to go home, you're going to go home, end of movie. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's over.
Yeah.
And it kind of lands with a thud.
And there's not a dry eye in the theater.
Mostly because nobody went to see it. But yeah. I'm glad we watched it, and I haven't mentioned this on the show yet. I know I mentioned it prior to the show. The biggest disappointment in this film, it isn't the horror. It isn't the fact that the good thing kind of ruins the end. It's that nothing looks like it does in the poster.
Yeah. The poster you often see for this film has got a couple, look like, bodies in some sort of crystalline coffins, a la Life Force.
Yep.
And a silvery alien with giant, metal-looking teeth, tons of pointy metal teeth. That's not this film.
No.
That's not even a film that a character talks about in the film. I mean, that is nowhere near this film.
No, I didn't think the alien would look quite as cool as the one on the poster, but I was expecting something in the ballpark, particularly for the killing part.
That would be to imagine this film, look at this poster, and then imagine the exact opposite. That's what this movie is.
Quite. Yeah, no, it went completely in a different direction, and nothing you saw in that has anything to do with this movie. But I wanted the alien, I wanted the beastie, and I didn't get it.
No, exactly. Yeah, we were definitely hoping for just some... I thought in the beginning, it was like, all right, we're off to a good start. We've seen someone get attacked and, their life force drained or whatever, and someone else, gets attacked and their body literally melts again. A nice looking effect. And then that all just stops.
Well, and right away too, because the notion that you kill somebody almost right away with the slug-like version of the thing, but then the rest of the crew just dies from asphyxiation because it figured out how to bleed the air out.
Yeah, there's no real true explanation as to what happened to that first crew.
No. Well, and one of the things while trying to find some reviews on this, one of the things I did come across was how nonchalant everyone is about the fact that a ship shows up with a crew of dead people. So the first move is to clear out the bodies, fix the ship. We got to get it back out on the road.
Yeah, no, I have a feeling they'd maybe just open the airlock and just let them blow out. Yeah, and then repressurize them because no one bothered to actually look around or check the logs or anything. Well, you couldn't find any reviews of the time. I did not get any social media comments on this film. Again, no one went and watched this thing, apparently. I have got a small blurb from my Blockbuster Entertainment Guide to the Movies and Videos from 1997.
That's how desperate we were for material.
Yeah, it says Star Crystal, 1985, 1 star. Astronauts discover asteroid chunk containing human-devouring alien creature. The Rock gives the best performance. So, yeah, I think that's about how to sum that up.
Yeah. Yeah, the big pile of goo was the most fascinating character in the entire thing.
I think that's going to do it. Do you have anything else that you wanted to mention on this one?
No, I think we already milked that for more than it was worth.
Oh, no, absolutely. Next time, we're going to take a jump back to 1959. We're going to take a look at Angry Red Planet. It's been quite a while since I've watched this one. This should be fun. Tom, I got the impression this was maybe one you have not seen.
No, I entirely selected it from our list based on title alone.
Awesome. All right, that'll be fun. I get a kick out of 1950 space exploration anyway. I'm sure it was set in the far-flung 1987 or something like that.
In the way distant future.
Yes, exactly. But for now, I guess we should thank everybody for listening to the Time Shifters podcast. If you have any feedback or thoughts on anything we discussed on this episode, please send us an email or comment on any of the social media posts. Follow the link in the show notes or visit timeshifterspodcast.com.
If you find yourself with some spare time, particularly after watching Star Crystal for the third time, I know that's what you're all going to be doing, please leave a rating and or review for the show. That does help get Time Shifters in front of more people who will hopefully become new listeners.
If you can spare some change, visit Ko-fi.com/TSPOE podcasts and donate it. This will help with the costs of web hosting and episode production. Time Shifters podcast will always be free to our listeners, but any help you can offer is greatly appreciated.
And when you dig up that Star Crystal of your own and need to convert it into stuff, then please consider shopping at TeePublic or Dashery, Dashery, by using the link in the show notes or on the website. It won't cost you any extra, and anything and everything you purchase will help us, as well as support many independent artists.
That is going to do it for this episode. We will talk to you all next time. Bye, everybody.
See ya!